Hello, I'm Endresen, and this is the second presentation in the panel of talks devoted to the Russian Constructicon resource at the Slavic Cognitive Linguistics Conference. The title of this talk is Semantic Classification of Constructions in the Russian Constructicon. My co-authors and co-presenters are Valentina Zhukova, Daria Mordashova, and Ekaterina Rakhilina. What we are going to present is a result of a joint work. Two more people contributed immensely to this study and deserve credit, Yanda and Vladimir Plungyan. Here is the plan for this talk. First, we will address the question why we need an overall classification of constructions. Then we will explain how we did it and give an overview of the entire classification of constructions built as a multi-level hierarchy of classes, subclasses, semantic types, and subtypes. And finally, zoom in on a part of this classification, the class modality and its neighborhood. Let us start with the what for question. In recent decades, construction grammar has generated several studies of individual constructions found in various languages. Yet little is known about how the semantics of the entire system of constructions unfolds in a single language. Advocates of construction grammar hypothesize that a language is a structured inventory of constructions, a constructicon. But how can we test this hypothesis and how can we verify it? In particular, there are many questions we can ask from the theoretical perspective. What are the major types of meanings that multi-word grammatical constructions can encode? What semantic types of constructions are attested more often than others? And do various meanings, types of meaning, form a coherent system? And if so, how is it organized? Apparently, these questions can be answered only if we can get access to a relatively large inventory of constructions of a single language. And today we have such an inventory. The Russian Constructicon contains over 2,200 constructions. It is by far the largest inventory, the largest database of constructions built for any language. It's large enough to draw at least preliminary conclusions and identify major semantic types of constructions that might be relevant for other Slavic and even non-Slavic languages. We need to classify constructions in order to turn a list of collected items into a structured inventory. How exactly can we do this? This is a practical challenge that all existing constructicons face. How do they classify constructions in terms of semantics? Well, the thing is that other constructicons are closely connected to corresponding FrameNet resources that primarily focus on verb argument constructions, which is a type of construction centered around specific verbs and their arguments. In these resources, constructions are classified in terms of frame semantics. Each construction evokes a certain frame, and its constituents correspond to the semantic components of this frame. Russian lacks a fully developed FrameNet resource. This figure shows that predicate argument constructions, including verb argument constructions, is only a single type among a whole variety of syntactic patterns that we have in the Russian Constructicon. It yields only 8% of the entire database. This is why frame semantics is not enough in our case, and we have to find a model that would work for analyzing semantics of all constructions included in our inventory. So we adopted a bottom-up approach. Our aim has been to collect a maximally inclusive inventory of Russian constructions and analyze them in terms of on their own terms, allowing parents to emerge from the data, not imposing other models like from English or from frame semantics. So this is an emergent classification. We annotated individual constructions by assigning semantic tags that capture relevant aspects of their meaning. The annotation of construction was carried out by a panel of 3 native speakers who worked together as a team over a long period of time. We worked towards reaching a consensus about every single construction. At the same time, our bottom-up approach does not mean that this work has been done in a theoretical vacuum. Our results are verified against typological studies of grammatical meanings, grammatical categories. When we annotated constructions, we took into account corresponding categories, distinctions, and terminology already known from typological studies of grammatical meanings. We adapt and adjust this terminology for annotation of constructional meanings. So, in doing so, we try to understand which types of meanings encoded grammatically in other languages can be expressed in Russian by means of syntactic constructions. As an example, consider the construction noun phrase nominative возьми и verb phrase imperative. As in the sentence, Ivan возьми и купи новую машину. Ivan suddenly bought a new car. This construction illustrates a semantic type that we first termed unexpected outcome and later renamed it as mirative, after the category that is expressed grammatically in some languages. Mirative means that the speaker is surprised with new unexpected information. We adopt this term even though this semantics is expressed here not by a single grammatical marker, but by whole construction. As you see, semantics of a construction is often a result of complex interplay of elements that belong to different levels, like grammatical markers, lexemes, discourse units, word order, prosody, etc.
So what semantic types of constructions are best represented in our data? This bar chart visualizes 20 most numerous semantic types in the Russian Constructicon. Each of them is represented by more than 50 individual constructions. Constructions that encode degree of intensity, assessment, and attitudes are by far the most frequently attested, followed by the semantic types comparison, salient property, reaction to the previous discourse, and other. Now, this table lists all semantic types. When we identified them, we grouped them in 5 classes: qualia, modality and its neighborhood, subjectivity, discourse, and parameters. Overall, these classes comprise 55 semantic types, and most of the types have an additional level of granularity represented by their 182 subtypes. The subtypes are not listed in this table, but you can spot their presence where you see the plus symbol. For example, the type comparison has 5 subtypes, whereas instrument has no subtypes. We explain our terminology and provide illustrations of types and subtypes on the website of the Russian Constructicon, both in English, as you see here, and in Russian on this page. Today, several talks will present case studies of some of these semantic types. The first and the largest class is called qualia. This term is borrowed from philosophy, where it refers to individual instances or forms of conscious experience. We use this term to name a large class of constructions that describe the properties of the objective physical world external to the speaker. Qualia has 7 subclasses termed situation structure, situation modifiers, major roles, logical relations, and other. Now, the next class of constructions is called modality and its neighborhood. We'll come back to this class at the end of this talk. Subjectivity is a large class of constructions that encode the subjective evaluation of a situation or its participants by the speaker. a distinct class of constructions function at the discourse level form the class number 4. Because discourse constructions structure the text, organize communication, and often refer to the context larger than a single sentence. Finally, parameters is a class of constructions that encode the degree of intensity or accuracy. These two semantic types imply a scale that serves as a point of reference for a property or a situation characterized by a construction. Degree of intensity and degree of accuracy are the meanings that often build over other meanings. For example, temporal, spatial, or quantitative semantics. We can visualize this special status of this class as follows. All 5 classes are interrelated with each other, and parameters are placed vertically on the left. In practice, constructions of this class often carry several semantic tags. In our database, many constructions represent more than one semantic type. In fact, over 40% of constructions carry more than one tag to capture different aspects of their semantics. A good example comes from the construction clause и привет, literally clause and hello, as in the sentence «Он уже давно взял у меня эту книгу и привет, уехал в отпуск», meaning he borrowed my book a long time ago and suddenly disappeared, literal and hello, he left for vacation. Two important ideas about this construction are: a participant of a situation disappears, and it happens unexpectedly to the speaker. This construction simultaneously belongs to two semantic types: non-existence, subtype disappear, in the class qualia, and mirative, in the class subjectivity. This is a good example of how semantic types and classes can overlap at the level of individual constructions. And we can examine what kinds of overlaps are more frequently attested than others. Now, this figure shows the size of each class of constructions in terms of its type frequency. And this figure breaks this number down to measure the amount of overlap with other classes. These are the percentages of those constructions that belong to more than one class at the same time. We can make two important observations. First, overlap with other classes is attested in each class. Secondly, in subjectivity, and especially in parameters, the amount of overlapping constructions is very large. In parameters, the majority of constructions are overlapping. And this supports the idea that parameters express semantics that is often built over another meaning.
Now let's have a closer look at the class modality and its neighborhood. This class comprises 301 constructions, and the structure of the class is visualized in the diagram. On the one hand, we adopt the traditional widely accepted approach and take a narrow understanding of modality that refers to root and epistemic modality. These semantic types form the core center of modality, as shown with a frame. On the other hand, we consider categories closely related to modality as its neighborhood, and we suggest that the neighborhood includes volition, causation, request, threat, prohibition, apprehension, and curse. In other words, we model this class as a radial category centered around the core, root, and epistemic model meanings, and also including several peripheral categories. In the diagram, general semantic types of constructions are visualized as boxes, and their subtypes are indicated with arrows. For example, the semantic type root modality has 4 subtypes corresponding to participant internal and participant external possibility and necessity. Numbers in parentheses are type frequencies of each semantic type and subtype. That is how many individual constructions in our database carry a certain tag. Solid lines indicate the relationships of semantic categories within the class, and dashed lines show the relationship across classes. Other classes are indicated with dotted blue lines here. For instance, volition has connections with most of the general types within the class, and possibility is related to actuality which simultaneously belongs to another large class, qualia. We use solid lines to indicate both conceptual links between the semantic types and also links at the level of individual constructions. To give you a few examples of constructions referring to the core and more peripheral categories, let's take a closer look at root modality, volition, and apprehension. The domain of possibility is represented by constructions denoting dynamic possibility, as in the construction «До Москвы из Лондона можно долететь за 4 часа», one can fly from Moscow to London in 4 hours, and also deontic possibility, which is indicated by the tag permission, which is more user-friendly for our resource. It is either a permission to perform an action or the speaker's request for such a permission, as in the construction «Не страшно, если я закурю», would you mind if I smoke? Volition is closely related to the core central model meanings. It is included into the domain of root modality by some scholars. That's why in the diagram we place this semantic type closer to the central categories. A typical member of this category is an optative construction like «Вот бы никогда не работать», wouldn't it be great if one never had to work? The semantic component of volition is also present in other categories. For instance, apprehension is related to an undesirable situation that the speaker would like to avoid. «Как бы Миша не опоздал», I'm afraid Misha could be late, means that the state of affairs in which Misha is late seems undesirable for the speaker. Now you see that the core and neighboring categories are interrelated. Moreover, the radial category structure can be used to model a network of constructions that belong to a single semantic type. If we zoom in into prohibitive, we'll see that this single semantic type represents an entire network of prohibitive constructions, already presented to you in the previous talk given by Laura Yanda. The class of modality is also connected to other classes. For instance, it overlaps with qualia in the semantic type actuality, represented by constructions like «Мише удалось покурить», «Misha managed to smoke». Actuality refers to a successful realization of an action, as the English verb manage, or the successful result of the ability, as Karin Eimer puts it. Actuality, also labeled as acquisitive modality sometimes, as a category lies at the intersection of modality in its domain of possibility and perfective aspect. To conclude, our representation of the modality class as a radial category complements the typologically accepted view of core model meanings by adding relevant adjacent categories that are closely related to the modal domain and tend to be frequently expressed by means of constructions.
Conclusions. Our main point is that we propose a system of semantic tags based on grammatical classification. And the tags we used to subdivide our data, our constructions into classes, and identify constructional families are mostly grammatical. We have seen that these tags helped us to turn initially unsystemic list of constructions into a structured network. And there is one more advantage in using grammatical classification. Grammatical tags are universal, and they are applied by typologists all over the world to different languages of different types. And that means that our methodology and our findings can also serve as a basis for cross-linguistic comparison. And that is very important for construction grammar theory. But there is one more dimension, purely practical, because our methodology can also serve as a starting point for building new Constructicon resources for other languages, starting with Slavic languages. Now, as for future research, So first of all, we can explore grammatical categories within a language. And think about what additional meanings are chosen by individual constructions when they express, for example, prohibitive semantics or large quantity semantics, and so on and so forth. Because being expressed with the help of grammatical means, these meanings are very poor. But as represented by constructions, as we have seen, they become richer. So what are these additional meanings they acquire when being expressed by constructions? And also, having such a huge database, we can look for correlations between grammatical meanings and the ways they are expressed in constructions, for example, dative constructions or instrumental constructions, and so on and so forth. And the second point is to explore typological comparisons across languages. For example, we can look for similar metaphorical patterns explored by different languages, repeated in different languages for one and the same construction family, or the same types of particles also used by different language systems. And vice versa, we can find specific anchor words and specific word order and specific types of semantic shifts in constructions. These 2 points are as we consider our contribution to construction grammar theory and practice. Thank you.